Ambassador Alan Wright adjusted his formal uniform as he waited outside the massive doors of the Galactic Council chamber. The blue and gold colors of Earth's flag stood out against the sea of alien designs surrounding him. Unlike the other representatives, with their assortment of tentacles, extra limbs, or energy forms contained in special suits, Alan looked painfully ordinary, just a human in his 50s with graying hair and determined eyes. "First time presenting?" asked a voice beside him. Alan turned to see a tall, slender alien with pale blue skin. The Centaurian ambassador, if he remembered correctly. "Earth's first official petition for full membership," Alan replied with a polite smile. The Centaurian made a sound like bubbling water, their version of laughter. "Good luck with that. The Council can be traditional in their views." Before Alan could respond, the massive doors swung open. The chamber beyond was enormous, with curved rows of seating surrounding a central speaking platform. Representatives from over 200 species filled the room, their conversations creating a buzz of different languages that the universal translators converted to a manageable hum. Alan walked to his designated seat, marked with Earth's flag. Unlike the other representatives whose seating positions reflected their status and influence, Earth's spot was in the back row, physically representing their current standing in galactic politics. High Counselor Zex Taral, a massive entity with 6 arms and skin that shifted colors with their emotions, called the meeting to order. Their skin currently displayed a formal pattern of deep purple and gold. "Today we consider the application of Sol 3, locally known as Earth, for advancement from observational status to full council membership," Zex Taral announced, their voice booming through the chamber. "Ambassador Wright will present Earth's qualifications." Alan walked to the central platform, feeling the weight of hundreds of alien eyes on him. The platform rose slightly, giving everyone a clear view. "Esteemed council members," Alan began, "Earth has maintained peaceful relations with all galactic species since first contact 30 years ago. Our technological development has accelerated significantly. We've established colonies on Mars and Europa, and our ships now regularly travel throughout our solar system. Our scientific contributions—" "Excuse me," interrupted a voice from the front row. The interruption came from Ambassador Vrel of the Valaxian Empire, a species known for their technological superiority and arrogance. "Your species still primarily uses combustion propulsion, correct? And you have yet to develop even basic gravity manipulation?" Alan kept his expression neutral. "We're making rapid progress in alternative propulsion systems and—" "Progress?" Vrel said with a dismissive gesture. "My species had gravity control before we left our planet's surface. Your fastest ships would take decades to reach even the closest council worlds without using our jump gates." Several representatives chuckled. Alan felt his face grow warm, but maintained his composure. "Earth offers more than just technology," Alan continued. "Our cultural diversity, is that what you call it?" This interruption came from the Zentari ambassador, a crystalline being who communicated through light pulses translated by council systems. "Your planet still fights among itself. You have over 200 political divisions on one world. Most evolved species unite before reaching space." The chamber filled with more laughter. Alan gripped the edges of the speaking platform. "That diversity gives us strength," Alan insisted. "Different perspectives lead to innovative solutions that—" "Ambassador Wright," said High Counselor Drex of the Arcturus Confederation, his massive form looming in the front row. "While we appreciate Earth's enthusiasm, let's be realistic. Your military consists of a few hundred ships that can barely leave your atmosphere. Your energy production still relies on burning fossilized organisms. Your communication technology requires our translators to function in this very room." Drex leaned forward, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "Earth is, at best, an amusing pet species. Perhaps in another century or two, you might be ready for associate membership. But full council rights, that would be like giving a child a weapon." The chamber erupted in laughter. Some representatives didn't even try to hide their amusement, pointing at Alan as they conversed with their neighbors. Alan stood straight, his jaw tight. "Earth has overcome every challenge we've faced. We may be younger than most council species, but we learn quickly. We request the council judge us on our potential, not just our current technology level. Potential doesn't protect borders or contribute to collective defense, said Ambassador Krell from the Orion Alliance. Full membership comes with responsibilities Earth simply cannot fulfill. After an hour of similar comments, the official vote was called. Only 3 species voted in favor of Earth's petition, all younger races that had faced similar treatment in the past. The council has decided, announced Zex Toral, skin now showing patterns of formal blue. Earth will maintain observational status with review permitted in 20 standard years. Alan bowed stiffly and returned to his seat, ignoring the pitying looks from some representatives and the continued amusement from others. 3 days later, Alan's shuttle approached Earth. Through the viewport, the blue planet looked peaceful, unaware of its galactic insignificance. The shuttle landed at the secure diplomatic facility in Geneva, where President Susan Miller and General Frank Winters waited. "That bad?" President Miller asked, noting Alan's expression as he walked down the ramp. "Worse," Alan replied. "They laughed at us, called us pets, said we might be ready in another century." General Winters, a tall woman with short gray hair and piercing eyes, shook her head. "Politicians are the same across the galaxy, it seems." President Miller gestured toward a secure door. "Let's continue this inside." In a room shielded from any possible surveillance, alien or otherwise, the 3 sat around a simple table. "The council sees us as primitive," Alan explained. "They judge everything by their standards of technology, and by those measures we're centuries behind." Rather than looking disappointed, President Miller nodded. "As we expected. Did anyone suspect anything?" "No," Alan said. "They're too busy, mocking us to look deeper." General Winters slid a tablet across the table. "Then we continue as planned. Project Phoenix remains our top priority." President Miller tapped a code into the tablet, bringing up a secure file. "It's time you met the person who's going to change everything, Alan." The door opened and a woman in her 40s with auburn hair and intense focus entered. She carried her own tablet filled with complex equations. "Ambassador Wright, this is Dr. Linda Parker," President Miller said. "She's the reason we're not concerned about the council's opinion." Dr. Parker shook Alan's hand firmly. "Their mockery is based on what they think they know about us. But they've been looking at the wrong technologies all along." She activated a holographic display showing a design unlike anything Alan had seen before. "While they've been watching our rockets, we've been working on something they dismissed as impossible centuries ago." "What am I looking at?" Alan asked. "The reason Earth will never be mocked again," Dr. Parker replied with quiet confidence. "They think we're centuries behind. In reality, we've just been taking a different path, and sometimes the scenic route leads to places others have never thought to explore." 6 months passed since the humiliating council meeting. Deep beneath the Rocky Mountains, Dr. Linda Parker stared at the glowing blue energy field suspended between 2 metal pylons. The field pulsed with a steady rhythm, like a heartbeat. Unlike conventional shields used by council races, this barrier didn't just block energy. It absorbed it, growing stronger with each impact. "Run the test again," Linda said to her team. "Double the power this time." Her assistant, Greg Powell, adjusted the controls on his console. A young physicist with brilliant skills, Greg had been with Project Phoenix since its beginning 3 years ago. "That's pushing our safety limits," he warned. Linda nodded. "We need to know if it can handle what's coming." A mechanical arm swung into position and fired a concentrated energy beam at the shield. The blue field rippled but held firm, actually brightening as it absorbed the blast. Readings on the monitors spiked, then stabilized at a higher level than before. "It worked," Greg said, his voice filled with awe. "The quantum vacuum fluctuations are actually feeding on the energy. The more power we throw at it, the stronger it gets." Linda allowed herself a small smile. "The council races abandoned quantum vacuum research centuries ago. They decided it was unstable and impractical. They never thought to approach it from this angle. Because they never had to," said a voice from the doorway. Admiral Jack Nelson entered the lab, his uniform crisp despite the late hour. At 60, He remained imposing with his broad shoulders and direct gaze. "Necessity is the mother of invention," the Admiral continued. "And nothing drives necessity like being the underdog." Linda nodded. "How goes the integration on the ships?" "The Defiance retrofitting is 80% complete. The other 4 vessels in the Phoenix fleet will be ready within 2 months." On the other side of the galaxy, Ambassador Alan Wright sat through yet another council meeting. Though Earth still held only observational status, Alan attended every session, gathering information while enduring ongoing mockery. "The human is here again," whispered Ambassador Vrel loudly enough for Alan to hear. "Perhaps he enjoys the reminders of his species' inadequacy." Alan ignored the comment, focusing instead on the main discussion about increased activity along the outer rim of Council space. Several monitoring stations had gone silent in the past month. The Council suspected equipment failure or possibly smugglers, but Alan noted the concern in some representatives' voices. When the session ended, Alan gathered his notes and headed for the exit. A young Proximan aide stepped into his path. "Ambassador Wright, I'm Talos," the blue-skinned alien said with a slight bow. "Junior assistant to the Proximan delegation." "What can I do for you, Talos?" Alan asked politely. "Perhaps we could speak privately." Talos glanced around nervously. Alan followed the aide to a small garden area designed for private conversations. The Proximan seemed uncomfortable, constantly checking to ensure they weren't overheard. "I want to apologize for how you're treated," Talos said finally. "Not all of us agree with the Council's attitude toward Earth." Alan studied the young alien. "I appreciate that." "There's more." Talos lowered his voice. "The missing outposts? It's not equipment failure. 3 of our scout ships investigated and never returned. The Council is keeping it quiet to prevent panic." "Why tell me this?" Alan asked. "Because something's coming," Talos replied. "And when it does, we might need every ally, even those the Council doesn't respect." Back on Earth, Captain Kate Summers walked through the corridors of the EDF Defiant. From the outside, the ship looked unimpressive, about half the size of standard Council vessels with none of their sleek design elements. Inside, however, was a different story. Kate ran her hand along a wall where newly installed quantum field generators hummed softly. The engineering team had worked miracles fitting Dr. Parker's technology into the existing framework. "How's she feeling, Captain?" asked Chief Engineer Ben Howard, emerging from a maintenance shaft. "Like she's got something to prove," Kate replied, with a smile. Ben wiped grease from his hands. "Don't we all? My father was on the first contact team 30 years ago. He always said the aliens looked at us like we were children playing with toys." "Well, these toys are about to surprise them," Kate said. In Geneva, President Susan Miller met with her Security Council. The room was filled with military leaders and scientists, all brought together by the increasing concerns from the outer rim. "Ambassador Wright's report confirms our suspicions," General Winters said. "Something is taking out Council outposts and they're keeping it quiet." "Could this be an opportunity?" asked Defense Secretary Paul Harrison. "If the Council faces a threat they can't handle," President Miller shook her head. "We're not looking to take advantage of a crisis, Paul, but we do need to be prepared." She turned to a screen showing Linda's latest test results. "Is Phoenix ready if we need it?" "The shields work," Linda answered from her video feed. "The weapon systems derived from the same principles are at 90% effectiveness. We've never had a chance to test them against actual Council level technology, but in theory, they should be even more effective than we hoped." "And the fleet?" the President asked. Admiral Nelson straightened. 5 ships with the new systems. Not much compared to Council forces, but what they lack in number they make up for in capability. President Miller nodded slowly. "Keep the fleet on standby. Ambassador Wright believes whatever is happening may reach Council core worlds soon. When it does, we need to be ready to make a decision." That night, as Earth's leaders prepared for an uncertain future, a massive fleet of unknown ships emerged from jump space near Proxima Station, a crucial waypoint connecting 30 Council worlds. The station's automated distress signal activated, broadcasting a single message across all frequencies before being silenced. Unknown hostiles. Overwhelming force. Shields ineffective. The message reached the Galactic Council within hours, causing panic among the representatives. High Counselor Drex called an emergency session, his normally confident demeanor replaced by barely controlled fear. The attackers call themselves the Krell, he announced to the assembled representatives. They've destroyed 9 outposts and 3 defense fleets. Now they threaten Proxima Station. What do they want? Asked the Zentari ambassador. Everything, Drex replied grimly. They've demanded our unconditional surrender. All our worlds, technology, and resources are to be turned over to them immediately. Fear spread through the chamber. Ambassador Vrel, who had mocked Earth just days before, glanced at Alan with something new in his eyes. Pity for the primitive species that would surely be among the first casualties. Alan sat quietly, sending an encrypted message back to Earth. 3 words that would change everything. They're finally here. The emergency council chamber was nothing like the grand hall used for regular meetings. This room was smaller, with plain walls and functional seating arranged in a circle. No ceremony, no posturing, just raw fear filling the air as representatives from over 200 species faced an existential threat. Alan sat quietly in his designated spot, watching species that once mocked Earth now tremble at reports from the front lines. The Krell had destroyed 3 more outposts overnight. Their weapons cut through council shields like they weren't even there. Their hulls absorbed energy weapons without damage. High Counselor Drex stood at the center, his skin fluctuating between gray and black, colors of extreme distress in his species. The combined fleet has assembled at Proxima Station, Drex announced. 97 vessels from 23 council races. It's the largest defensive force assembled in 500 years. Will it be enough? Asked the Centaurian ambassador. Drex's silence answered the question more honestly than words could have. We've analyzed the Krell weapons, said the Valaxian ambassador Vrel. Once arrogant, he now looked haggard from lack of sleep. They're using some kind of quantum field manipulation we've never seen before. Our shields are designed to deflect or absorb energy, but these weapons somehow bypass the fields entirely. Alan's interest peaked at the mention of quantum fields. He tapped a note into his secure tablet. What about the Krell themselves? Asked a reptilian ambassador. Have we made contact? Drex nodded grimly. They've agreed to address the council. The lights dimmed, and a holographic figure appeared in the center of the room. The Krell ambassador stood nearly 8 feet tall with gray skin that seemed almost metallic. Forearms ended in hands with too many fingers. But it was the eyes that made several representatives gasp, solid black orbs that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Galactic Council, the Krell spoke, its voice oddly smooth for such an imposing figure. I am Overlord Vextan. I come to offer you one final chance to surrender. We are a peaceful coalition, Drex responded, struggling to keep his voice steady. We have no quarrel with your people. Peace is irrelevant, Vextan replied. Your resources and worlds will serve the Krell Dominion. Your technology will be absorbed. Your species will be permitted to exist as servants if you surrender now. Resistance means extinction. We have defended our territories for thousands of years, Drex said, attempting to sound confident. Our combined fleet will be destroyed. Vextan interrupted. Your weapons cannot harm our ships. Your shields cannot stop our weapons. Your destruction is inevitable. The hologram expanded, showing images of council ships breaking apart under Krell fire. Several representatives turned away from the graphic. Footage. You have 6 hours to transmit your surrender, Vextan concluded. After that, we begin with Proxima Station and move inward. No more negotiations will be accepted. The hologram vanished, leaving the chamber in stunned silence. We cannot surrender, said the Zentari ambassador finally. They will destroy us regardless. If we fight, we die today, countered another representative. If we surrender, perhaps some will survive. As arguments broke out across the chamber, Alan slipped out quietly. In a secure communication room, he established an encrypted connection to Earth. President Miller's face appeared on the screen, General Winters and Admiral Nelson visible behind her. You saw the transmission? Alan asked. We intercepted it, the president confirmed. The Krell are using quantum field weapons, just as we suspected. Similar to our technology? Alan asked. Dr. Linda Parker moved into view. Similar principles but cruder implementation. They're using brute force approaches while we've refined the control mechanisms. If our calculations are correct, our shield should not only resist their weapons but actually grow stronger when hit. Should? Alan raised an eyebrow. We haven't exactly had Krell weapons to test against, Linda replied with a tight smile. But I'm confident. President Miller leaned forward. The question is, do we intervene? Alan glanced back toward the chamber where panic was spreading. If we don't, the council falls today. Millions die immediately, billions in the coming weeks. And if we do? General Winters asked. We reveal capabilities we've kept hidden for years. The council will know we've been developing technology they thought impossible. They might even see us as a threat afterward, Admiral Nelson added. Alan thought of Talos and the few others who had shown Earth respect. We didn't develop Phoenix to conquer. We developed it to protect. President Miller nodded slowly. Captain Summers, is the fleet ready? The screen split to show Captain Kate Summers on the bridge of the Defiant. 5 ships, all systems green. We can reach Proxima Station through the jump gate in 40 minutes. The council fleet won't last 6 hours, Alan warned. Then we'd better hurry, President Miller said. Ambassador Wright, return to the chamber. Say nothing of our plans. Admiral Nelson, deploy the Phoenix fleet. Back in the council chamber, the representatives had moved from argument to resignation. Several species were already discussing surrender terms while others plotted desperate last stands on their homeworlds. Alan took his seat just as High Counselor Drex called for order. The combined fleet will engage the Krell at Proxima Station, Drex announced. We will not surrender without a fight. Ambassador Vrel laughed bitterly. A noble but pointless gesture. My science teams give our ships less than 10 minutes against their weapons. Then we die with dignity, said the Zentari representative, as the council devolved into fatalistic speeches. Alan received a simple message on his tablet. Phoenix launched. At Proxima Station, the combined council fleet formed a defensive perimeter. 97 ships of various designs and capabilities, representing the best technology from 23 advanced civilizations. Under normal circumstances, such a force would be invincible. These were not normal circumstances. The Krell fleet emerged from jump space, 150 vessels of identical design, their black hulls absorbing the light from Proxima's star. Without hailing or warning, they opened fire. The first volleys tore through the outermost council ships. Shields flared briefly before collapsing under weapons that seemed to bend space itself. Explosions blossomed silently in the vacuum as proud vessels were reduced to drifting debris. In the council chamber, live feeds showed the massacre. Representatives watched in horror as their finest ships, their bravest crews, died in moments. Even those who had argued for fighting now turned away, unable to bear witnessing the slaughter. We've lost 20 ships already, Drex announced, his voice hollow. No reported Krell casualties. Alan checked his tablet again. ETA 3 minutes. Perhaps we should prepare surrender terms, suggested a representative, voice trembling. Before Drex could respond, a technician rushed into the chamber. New contacts emerging from the Proxima jump gate. On the screens, 5 unmarked vessels appeared. They were smaller than both Council and Krell ships, with simple designs that looked almost primitive compared to the sleek Council vessels or the imposing Krell warships. Ambassador Vrel looked at the newcomers and then at Alan, pity in his eyes. Are those Earth ships? Alan met his gaze but said nothing, watching the screens as humanity joined the fight. The council chamber fell silent as everyone stared at the 5 small Earth ships on the view screen. They looked painfully outmatched against the massive Krell fleet. Several representatives exchanged pitying glances, while others simply shook their heads at what they saw as a futile gesture. What are they doing? Ambassador Vrel whispered. Those ships are barely armed by our standards. The Krell will destroy them instantly. Alan remained silent, his eyes fixed on the screen. This was the moment Earth had prepared for over the past 6 years. On the bridge of the EDF Defiant, Captain Y. Kate Summers assessed the battle with calm efficiency. The remains of the Council fleet struggled to maintain formation as Krell weapons tore through their defenses. 30 ships had already been lost, with the rest showing critical damage. "All Phoenix vessels, this is Defiant," Kate said into the comm. "Form up, defense pattern Echo, shields at maximum." The 5 Earth ships moved into a V formation, positioning themselves between the remaining Council fleet and the advancing Krell. "Still no response to our hails from either side," reported Communications Officer Dan Rogers. "They're a bit busy," Kate replied dryly. "The Council ships think we're committing suicide and the Krell probably see us as an annoyance at best." The OI. Tactical Officer Lisa Murphy looked up from her console. "Krell vessels adjusting course, 10 ships breaking off to intercept us." "Perfect," Kate said. "Let them come to us. Hold position and hold fire until my command." In the Council chamber, representatives watched as 10 Krell ships turned toward the small Earth fleet. The mood shifted from pity to grim fascination, like watching a small animal face a predator, knowing the outcome but unable to look away. "This is unexpected bravery," High Counselor Drek said, glancing at Alan. Alan finally broke his silence. "We've learned to face long odds." The Krell ships opened fire, their quantum-based weapons lancing toward the Earth vessels. Everyone in the chamber held their breath, expecting to see the small ships vaporize instantly. Instead, something extraordinary happened. As the Krell energy weapons struck the lead Earth ship, they seemed to splash against an invisible barrier. The barrier flashed blue momentarily, absorbing the attack completely. Not only did the ship remain undamaged, but the blue glow around it intensified. "What just happened?" Vrel demanded, leaning forward in shock. Again, Alan said nothing, allowing the scene to speak for itself. On the Defiant, Kate allowed herself a small smile as the shield readings climbed. "Dr. Parker was right. Their weapons are feeding our shields." "Shield capacity at 120% and rising," Lisa reported, her voice tinged with excitement. "The more they hit us, the stronger we get." "The other Krell ships are noticing," Dan said. "They're firing too." More Krell vessels turned their attention to the Earth ships, firing weapon after weapon. Each shot made the blue glow around the Earth vessels pulse brighter. "Shield capacity at 200%, Lisa announced. "We're reaching levels we never achieved in testing." Kate nodded. "All right, I think we've made our point. All ships, weapons free. Target propulsion systems first." The 5 Earth ships fired in unison. Unlike the energy weapons used by both the Council and Krell, these beams had a distinctive blue-white color. When they struck the Krell vessels, they didn't explode against shields. Instead, they passed through as if the Krell had no protection at all. 3 Krell ships lost engine power immediately, drifting out of formation. 2 more spun out of control as their navigation systems failed. In the Council chamber, the representatives watched in stunned silence. "Are those the same primitive humans we rejected for membership?" asked a reptilian ambassador. "Impossible," Vrel whispered. "Their technology was centuries behind ours just 6 months ago." The Zentari ambassador's crystalline form flickered rapidly, their equivalent of excited speech. "No, look at the energy signatures. That's quantum vacuum manipulation technology. But that's theoretical. We abandoned research into that field 500 years ago due to instability issues." Alan finally stood up. "Earth never abandoned it. When you're the underdog, you can't afford to dismiss any possibility." On screen, the battle had transformed. The Krell fleet, initially overwhelming, now found itself in disarray as the 5 Earth ships methodically disabled vessel after vessel. The remaining Council ships, seeing the tide turning, rallied to join the fight. "Krell flagship is hailing," Dan reported on the Defiance bridge. On screen, Kate ordered. Overlord Vextan appeared, his black eyes narrowed in what might have been anger or surprise. "How is this possible? Your species is primitive, your technology was assessed as harmless." "You made the same mistake the Council did," Kate replied. You underestimated us. Your weapons, they are like ours, but more refined, Bexton said. How did a species so young develop what took us centuries? Necessity, Kate answered simply. You've been the strongest for so long you stopped looking for new approaches. We never had that luxury. In the council chamber, the representatives watched this exchange with growing amazement. The species they had mocked for decades was now saving them from extinction. I'm receiving reports from across the battle, announced a council technician. The Krell fleet is in retreat. 47 of their vessels have been disabled or destroyed. A cheer erupted in the chamber. Representatives who had been preparing for death moments earlier now embraced each other in celebration. Several turned to Alan, their expressions a mix of gratitude and confusion. High Counselor Drex approached Alan slowly. Ambassador Wright, I believe the Council owes Earth an apology, and many questions. I'll be happy to answer them, Alan replied, after the Krell threat is fully contained. Drexy nodded, then did something unprecedented. He bowed deeply to Alan, a gesture of highest respect in his culture. Today, the galaxy has been reminded of an important lesson. True strength isn't measured by age or history, but by innovation and courage. One by one, other representatives approached Alan. Ambassador Vrel, who had been among the loudest to mock Earth, seemed unable to meet Alan's eyes. How long? Vrel asked quietly. How long have you had this technology? We began development shortly after our first council rejection, Alan answered. Each time you mocked us, we worked harder. The Zentari ambassador's crystalline form pulsed with curiosity. But you could have revealed this at any time. You could have demanded respect. Alan shook his head. That's not how Earth does things. We don't demand respect. We earn it. On the view screen behind them, the Defiant led the combined Earth Council, fleet in pursuit of the retreating Krell. The blue glow of quantum shields illuminated the darkness of space, a new dawn for galactic relations. 3 weeks after the Battle of Proxima Station, Ambassador Alan Wright entered the Grand Council chamber. Unlike his previous visits, heads turned and conversations paused as he walked down the central aisle. Some representatives nodded respectfully. Others still looked uncertain, as if trying to reconcile the primitive humans they had mocked with the species that had saved them from the Krell. The chamber itself had changed. Where Alan once sat in the back row, a new position had been prepared in the front section, marked with Earth's flag. High Counselor Drex gestured to the seat as Alan approached. A more appropriate position for Earth's representative. Drex said loud enough for nearby delegates to hear. Thank you, Counselor, Alan replied politely, taking his seat. Drex called the session to order. As our first agenda item, we revisit Earth's petition for full council membership. The chamber grew quiet. Many representatives looked embarrassed, remembering their laughter at Earth's previous application. Given recent events, Drex continued, I believe we have sufficient evidence of Earth's technological capability and commitment to galactic stability. Ambassador Vrel, once Earth's most vocal critic, stood. If I may address the chamber? Drex nodded permission. 6 months ago, I led the opposition to Earth's application, Vrel said, his voice carrying a humility never before heard from a Volaxian. I mocked their technology and questioned their value to the Council. I was wrong. Murmurs spread through the chamber. Not only was I wrong about their capabilities, Vrel continued, but I was wrong about what makes a species worthy of council. Membership. Earth didn't develop weapons to conquer. They developed shields to protect. When faced with the Krell, they didn't hesitate to defend the very council that had rejected them. Vrel turned to Alan. I formally withdraw my opposition and offer my full support for Earth's membership. One by one, other representatives who had opposed Earth's application rose to offer similar statements. The Zentari ambassador's crystalline form pulsed with bright patterns as they spoke. Earth pursued scientific paths we abandoned centuries ago because we thought them impractical. Their fresh perspective may be exactly what the Council needs. After the statements, Drex called for the vote. The result was unanimous. The first time in Council history that all member species agreed on a new addition. Ambassador Wright, Drex announced formally. On behalf of the Galactic Council, I am pleased to welcome Earth as a full member with all rights and privileges thereof. Applause filled the chamber. Alan nodded in acknowledgement, maintaining his composure despite the historic moment. Meanwhile, on Earth, Dr. Linda Parker led a team of scientists from 20 different council species through her laboratory beneath the Rocky Mountains. The visitor studied the quantum field generators with open amazement. "We abandoned this research 500 years ago," said a Volaxian scientist, shaking his head. "We decided it was too unstable to control." Linda smiled. "Sometimes fresh eyes see solutions where others see only problems. We had no preconceptions about what was impossible." In another section of the facility, Captain Kate Summers met with alien military officers who had come to learn about Earth's defensive systems. "The key innovation was turning the attack into an advantage," Kate explained. "Our shields don't just block energy, they absorb and repurpose it." A reptilian commander nodded appreciatively. "Ingenious. This completely changes our defensive doctrine." "We're happy to share the technology," Kate said. "With some conditions, of course." Across the galaxy, the Krell retreated to their territory after 3 failed offensives against the combined Earth Council fleet. Their ships, once seemingly invincible, proved vulnerable to Earth's advanced quantum weapons. Now they had requested peace talks. In Geneva, President Susan Miller sat across from Overlord Vextan. The Krell leader looked less imposing in person than he had in hologram form during his threats to the Council. "Your species surprises us," Vextan said. "We studied the Council for decades before attacking. All our intelligence suggested humans were primitive, barely capable of interstellar flight." "A common misconception," President Miller replied with a slight smile. "A deliberate deception," Vextan countered. "You hid your true capabilities." General Winters, standing behind the president, spoke up. "We developed them in secret, yes, but only because we were dismissed as unworthy of respect." Vextan's black eyes studied the humans. "The Krell respect strength. You have earned ours." By the end of the day, the preliminary peace agreement was signed. The Krell would withdraw from Council space and open diplomatic relations. They specifically requested that Earth serve as the intermediary in future negotiations, a remarkable show of respect from a species that had nearly conquered the galaxy. 6 months after the battle, Alan sat in his new office in the Council headquarters. As head of the newly formed Defense Committee, he had a large space with a view of the spectacular ringed planet below. A chime announced a visitor. "Enter," Alan called. High Counselor Drex stepped inside, followed by a young Proximan aide Alan, recognized. "Talos," Alan said with a smile. "Good to see you." "Ambassador Wright," Talos replied with a respectful bow, "though I should say Counselor Wright now." Drex looked between them. "You two know each other?" Talos was one of the few who treated Earth with respect before it became fashionable, Alan explained. Drex nodded. "That's partly why I've assigned him to your committee." The Proximan delegation was quite insistent. After Drex left, Talos remained. "I never imagined Earth would rise so quickly in the Council hierarchy." "Neither did we," Alan admitted. "We just wanted to be treated as equals." "And now many look to Earth for leadership," Talos observed. "It's quite a reversal." Their conversation was interrupted by another chime. A representative from a newly discovered species entered, their first day attending Council sessions as an observer. "Counselor Wright?" the newcomer asked nervously. "I was told you could explain the membership process. My people are eager to join the galactic community, but we're concerned our technology might not be advanced enough yet." Alan thought back to his own first days in the Council, the mockery and dismissal he had endured. Then he smiled at the nervous representative. "The Council has learned that technological advancement isn't the only measure of a species' worth," he said kindly. "Tell me about your people. What unique perspectives do you bring to our community?" As the grateful representative began to speak, Alan reflected on how far Earth had come. They had turned mockery into respect not through vengeance or domination, but by proving their worth when it mattered most. The galaxy had changed, and Earth had helped change it for the better. In the vast chamber below his office, representatives from hundreds of worlds discussed the future with renewed hope and unity. And not one of them was laughing at the humans anymore.